Greetings and salutations, and this is Wolfphototech, and here we go with another fun little overview / review of Dungeons and Dragons 4th Edition, Dungeon Master, Deluxe Dungeon Master screen. You put an S in there, an apostrophe for the Masters. This was produced by Wizards of the Coast. It's a simple sleeve. It's take the screen out. The screen is fairly sturdy, so it can be used as a secondary portion to your screen to extend in the length if you need it to be. The screen is landscape format and can easily be tacked on to piece can be tacked on with paper clips to make it a little bit longer, to turn it into a 5-ish panel screen. Start with the artwork on this. You got a delightful scene with a red dragon. Sorry, brain fart. You have a heroine, a halfling, and a tiefling in this scene. You got a really dark drow with a bow against an ogre, and you have a displacer beast that's really thin. Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition actually has quite nice artwork, but they made a lot of really interesting decisions on changing some of the art style for some of the creatures and details. But also arcing back towards some more classic elements of Dungeons & Dragons from prior to 3.5. So, generally, Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition is sort of like a proto-variant of Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, except for they didn't bother hiding the fact that it was a game, and it was more finite in its rule structure, and it had a different structure than standard Dungeons and Dragons games. Right here in this column, this box up here, there's the experience rewards section with a little bit of information on the bottom side of it explaining how it works, going from level 1 to level 30. You got attack roll modifiers right here. Combat advantage against target, +2. Attacker is prone, -2. Attacker is restrained, -2. Please note, it's combat roll modifiers. Circumstance, combat advantage against target, you get a +2. Attacker is prone. So if your character is laying on the ground, you have a -2 to attacking your opponent. Attacker is restrained. Someone is holding you. You have a -2 to hit someone. Target has partial cover. -2. This is like kind of weird because attacker is restrained and then it goes to target is partial cover. It still makes sense. Target has superior cover. So it goes from partial to superior. Basically what? Half to 3/4 cover. Target has partial concealment, melee and range only, -2. Interestingly enough, if you pay attention to this, target has partial cover is -2. That is effectively the same rule as in Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, where if you're aiming at an opponent and they have partial cover, their AC is increased by 2. If they have 2/3 cover or 3/4 cover, they have +5 to their AC. In this system, it's just flipped to, instead of being plus to their AC, it's a penalty minus to you. This is a really important detail with Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition between 5th Edition, that Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition is a lot of Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition rephrased in a fashion that does not bother players so much. Because players really don't like hearing you have a -2 to attack. Not as much as the enemy's AC is increased by 2. It's probably something about having something negative projected onto them, making them feel worse than a strength being boosted on an opponent, because it's projecting a flaw or a weakness into the player or the character, and the player kind of identifies with the character, and you kind of have, my throat is getting dry. So if you read through this pretty closely, you'll have this weird feeling all of a sudden if I keep going back and forth between 5th edition and 4th edition and explaining parallels in the mechanics. You will swear this is Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition with some tweaks. So, weirdly enough, you could actually use Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition components in 5th edition, and they work perfectly fine. It's just converting some terminology. You got attack roll modifiers here. Base exploration speed. Speed 5, 6, 7, 8. Per day, per hour, per mile. Terrain and travel section. Damage by level. Calculated out. Yet again, it's another example of a lot of D6s and D8s. You got a 1d8 plus 4 for level 1. 1d8 plus 5 for level 2. 1d8, and then all of a sudden switches to d6s again. It goes to d6s. 2d6 plus 5, and it goes back and forth between d8s and d8s and d6s. You got food and drink and lodging down here. Pretty much the same kind of stuff in 5th edition. Light sources. Yet again, a lot of standardized stuff. Monster knowledge DCs. Name, type, keyword. Power, resistance, and vulnerabilities. So if you have a moderate monster level DC, you do all the calculations to get your moderate score, and a person passes that, you get the name, type, and keyword. You get keywords tied to it. And then you have, if you meet the hard, you get powers, resistances, and vulnerabilities. Knowledge skills by origin. Aberrant, construct, elemental, fey, immortal, natural, shadow, undead. It's actually more condensed in 4th edition than it is in 3.5, Pathfinder 1st, 2nd, Starfinder. 5th edition kind of doesn't even care, really, too much. I had to double check that statement. DCs to break or burst common items. You got standard actions explained right here in this little chart. You got your move actions, minor actions, immediate actions, opportunity actions, free actions. You got a lot of types. You got standard, move, minor, immediate, opportunity, free actions, and then you got skill challenge complexity with explanation on skill challenges over here. And you got explanation and rules on charging, to charge into combat to attack. And then you move over to the second side here. You got difficulty class by level. Goes from level 1 to 30. So you got 10 more levels in 4th edition over 5th edition. DCs for commonly used skills. Acrobatics, Arcana, Athletics. It's all listed out here. You got climbing a ladder, climbing a rope, climbing on uneven surface, cave wall, climbing a rough surface brick wall. Climbing a ladder is DC 0, climbing a rope is DC 10, climbing a uneven surface cave wall is DC 15, and it goes, and then you have, instead of just having simple DCs, it's plus 5. Climbing a slippery surface. So you have a plus 5 to a slippery surface. So if you say a character is climbing a slippery ladder, it would be a DC of 5. Because a ladder is a 0. Climbing a ladder is a 0, but being that it's a slippery ladder, it's a 5. Climbing an unusually smooth surface, +5. Catch hold while falling, +5. High jump, long jump, swim in calm water, swim in rough water, swim in stormy water. A lot of rapids. I have a lot of personal experience with swimming in calm, rapid, and stormy water. I grew up on a farm. It's not fun to wake up in an inner tube in an electric fence. Fun adventures. Also, being sucked through a culvert backwards is also fun too. That's a story that a lot of people will attest to actually happening. I probably should share this video to the person that was there when that happened, and they'll show up in the comments. Yeah, I remember that. Everyone's freaked out. You got bluff, dungeoneering, or nature. You got heal, insight, perception, which is a nice long chart from hearing normal conversation, hearing whispers, each day since the tracks were made. You got streetwise, you got thievery. And then you have something, if you were watching my Pathfinder Game Master screen reviews, you'll notice that this will actually look familiar right here. This is a condition section. The Pathfinder ones always were putting it on the far left. In this case, it's on the far right. It is very similar in concept to Pathfinder, except that there's actually a few more conditions in Pathfinder 1st and 2nd edition, as well as Starfinder. There's also healing a dying character instructions or rules, and then you have death and dying rules over here for Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition. Okay. Move that light. Oh, I need a new chair. But anyways, oh, by the way, there's the signature of the artist. Once over again on the art, you can get a good close look at it. That drow is like old school Black as Night. Drow actually in original editions were completely black, as opposed to like purple, which actually makes absolutely no sense by scientific standards, because if they lived in caves, they should actually be ghost white. But, you know, the color black is oftentimes synonymous with death and danger and evil in Western cultures. The color white in Eastern cultures is actually oftentimes associated with death itself. So you got a bit of a flip there. But anyways, you have some, as I said, this is really beautiful artwork. 4th edition actually had some incredibly beautiful artwork in it, and I'm not lying. Alrighty, on to the review section of this screen. This screen is a beautiful 4-panel landscape. Everything is written out. The white background is highly reflective. This is an important thing about color. White is inherently reflective. And if you put dark text over white, it's easier to read than, say, a subtle color shift. Now, there's a really funny thing here. I'm going to pull out the Pathfinder 3.5 edition, and you notice that Everything in here, this is a whiter white than the Pathfinder screen. The text in Pathfinder second and first edition screen is not in a box, but is in a simple lined section within the screen. Where Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition is actually in these nice clear darkened boxes that are alternating white, whatever color that is. It's like a brown, green, gray. Then back to like a light tone, a dark tone, a light tone, a dark tone, a light tone, a dark tone, a light tone, dark tone. That makes it generally easier to physically read along on the mechanics. Where this one is, it's just basically a bunch of text with a bunch of lines between all the text. It tends to blend together more. Where the Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, all the text is just jumps out at you. They give you ample space between the numbers, but you also have the horizontal on the columns. Ample space between the columns, but you also have nice clean lines drawing them up, and it's actually distinctly a separate section from the background. So in the fun case is this screen is superior to the Pathfinder first edition screen as far as quality across the board. Everything is so clear to read due to the intelligent choices of color. They chose red for the headers because red is an instinctual trigger or warning color for people's attention. Humans evolved to have a very strong perception of the color red and to emotionally tie in the necessity to pay attention to the color red. If you're like watching my video, you probably will have like at various points may have looked over here and been watching, and you see this red box. The red box is in a shaded corner of my room. Yet it jumps out at you. Same thing with the Nintendo Switch Classic. The Nintendo, not Nintendo Switch, but the Nintendo Classic Edition box. That's right there. And the Super NES Classic Edition box, those jump out at you. It's red. Red sticker, fake sticker, sticks out at you. So the intelligent choice of having a white background, which is high reflectivity, with basically a nice mild color in the box, alternating dark and light, for easy switching between line rapidly, with the red topper or the title top section. That is so beautiful, and that's such an incredibly smart move. The only thing I could actually say that is a negative in this is, unlike the Pathfinder ones, the Starfinder, RuneQuest, other tabletop screens, there is no page number next to the title of each section. Having a page number right there would be exceedingly useful for you to quickly reference back to, say, like the Dungeon Master's Guide, page. Player's Handbook 1, page. There. Vast improvement. It is a very utilitarian design, much like the Pathfinder First Edition screen and Starfinder screen. The Starfinder screen is actually probably the closest comparison to it, because the Starfinder screen actually incorporates a lot of the intelligent choices of having alternating darker color and light color for easier tracking, and slightly larger text with more bolding for the effects as the 4th edition screen. So 4th edition predates Starfinder and Pathfinder 2nd edition, but it is right around the same time as Pathfinder First Edition in production. So, Paizo clearly took their time and studied this screen at some point and purposely took away with the smart decision to incorporate some of the really smart design features in this screen into their screens, going forward from after Pathfinder First Edition, but also improved upon it. This is the deluxe screen, by the way. So, this is all a lot of skill challenges, various functions and features. It's nothing too super seriously awesome about it, but it's still fairly nice overall. And it's actually one of the stronger screens. It's like sitting at that fun little like 3.75, 4.25 star territory. So I probably would place it like a 4-star. There's only a few small things that could improve this screen, and that would be like adding a 5th panel would be a nice improvement. Putting in page numbers for the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook would be a nice improvement. That would easily take it from like the 4-star, 4.25-ish star, and knock it up to the 4.75 star territory. But other than that, it's actually exceedingly intelligently designed, and I had to give them a lot of credit for well organizing it out as well as it is. And being that, as I said, it's being white means it's highly reflective, and it makes it easier for light to travel in, impact it, and bounce back, and make it easier for you to visually see what you're looking at. Because it literally brightens the area right behind itself from whatever light is in the room. So, that is actually a really nice screen. 4th edition was one of those systems that there was so much awesome good ideas in it, but they screwed up the explanations on a bunch of stuff, and they didn't bother using natural language. They used game language in it, and game logic language, which is oftentimes off-put. Also, the fact that they called it this thing called Dungeons and Dragons, and they changed fundamentally the mechanics of the system so much that it wasn't very much in line with, say, Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, or Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, or Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition, or 1st edition, or OD&D, or Basic D&D. They changed enough in there to make it really something else different, and that was not a... It was both a good idea and a bad idea. And it was a bad idea because they put Dungeons and Dragons on it. So, as I said, this is like a 4-star screen. It's really well, cleanly constructed, designed all the way through. It's thought very well. It's the Deluxe Dungeon Master screen. I got the regular one right here. That'll be the next one. But anyways, there you go. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you happen to enjoy this video, please leave a like on it and consider subscribing and commenting below. If there's any stuff that you want me to cover more of, I will happily do so. Some things would take longer to cover in certain ways, and some things will be just quicker and like that. So it doesn't hurt to ask. Thank you very much for watching. Have a delightful day, a nice night, and a wonderful week, and a magnificent month, and see you next time.